Hello friends, it's your girl Grace, aka Face Quizit here, and we're back on another episode of Dialogues with Grace. Today I wanted to quickly jump on the discussion of the custody battle between Sophia Momodu and Davido. I wasn't going to do a video on this topic, but then I was watching quite a number of videos on the topic and saw a lot of narratives that I didn't completely agree with, and I thought, it was important for me to share. Well, maybe not important to some people because they'll say, what's my own? However, I just felt it was important, or it was important to me to share my own narrative and then get maybe you guys' opinion on it. A few points, because I want to keep this video extremely short. So my understanding is that they have this gentleman's agreement. They don't have any, and when I say they, I mean Sophia and Davido have this gentleman's agreement on how to cater for their child, in terms of maintenance of the child, making sure she's comfortable, good accommodation, school fees paid, and so on and so forth. My understanding also was that Davido was paying this or paying 5 million as opposed to the 23 million that Sophia was asking for, and that but his father stepped in. The reason I really wanted to make this video was because I saw a video where the person had said, well, she's dating Davido, so 23 million is nothing, and so on and so forth. And I thought to myself, well, excuse you, 23 million might not be something to Davido, but that doesn't mean that he just wants to throw his money around. It's his money. He worked hard for it. Why should he just give it to her? I mean, I understand that he needs to cater to his child, which he is doing, thank God for that. And where he has come short, because I understand that there are places where he has come short, his father had stepped in, and this guy was saying things along the lines of, well, his father is an outsider. This is Dr. Adedeji. What's his name? Davido's father. What's their surname again? I've gone blank. It will come back in a minute. That the father is a third party, and therefore, it doesn't count. And I was like, excuse you, as long as the family is making sure that this girl is comfortable, then it shouldn't really be a problem, right? And I do also understand that Sophia, and as you can see, I've just jumped in because everybody already knows this discussion, so there's no point in bringing up any backstory. I'm just gonna keep this video short. I also understand that, Sophia is living in a place in Banana Island that costs, I think, between 23 or 25 million per annum, and that Davido had offered her, or Davido's family, should I say, had offered her a place in one of their properties in Banana Island. Now, what I'm not clear about, for the sake of fairness, is whether they wanted her, but it didn't seem to me like they would want her to come and live with their family. I don't think there are family members living in that house. Please correct me in the comment box if I'm wrong, but my understanding is they have this property in Banana Island, and they offered it to Sophia and Imade, especially for Imade, not for Sophia per se, but of course she's the child's mother, so they offered her the place and she said no. And her reasons were, which to an extent is valid, but hear me, her reasons were that she's not married to the Adelekes, and that's the name, Adeleke. I went blank for a second. That she's not married to the Adelekes, and therefore she didn't want to live with them. And I'm thinking, I don't know whether they wanted her. I doubt very much that they would want her to live with them, because I would like to think they're reasonable people. Why would they want you to live with them? I think it's just a property, one of their properties, and they were willing to give it to you for yourself and your daughter Imade to stay in. And I think that was quite generous. For me, what I don't understand is who lives in a rented accommodation and pays 23 million per annum. Isn't that ridiculous? I mean, if I were her, I'm not her, of course, but if I were her, trust me, I would have bought a property by now, because there's no way I am paying that amount of money every annually for somebody else's mortgage. Are you kidding me? For somebody else's property, you're basically paying off the mortgage. If that property was mortgaged, you're paying it off for the person. That to me doesn't make sense. Anyway, I digress. My point is, if they have offered you an accommodation and you have said, no, I'm not going to stay in this accommodation for whatever reasons, and your point may be valid or not, that's beside the point. However, they've offered you this property. Therefore, if you don't want it, then you can't still demand the 25 million. If you disagree, please feel free to leave your comments in the comment below. But for me personally, I don't think you can still demand for him to pay 25, is it 23 or 25 million per annum for a rented accommodation when they have properties that they've offered to you and you said no. Davido also gave you a car. You said it was damaged goods or something along those lines. I know you're a comfortable person, so really and truly, you shouldn't be bothered if Davido is only paying 5 million. If he says he can only contribute 5 million, then I think that's valid too, because you have been offered something else and you completely rejected it. And that's fine. You have the right to live wherever you want to live. You're an adult, you know, you can make that choice. But what I don't think is right is you insisting that he pays this ridiculous amount of money towards somebody else's property. It just doesn't make any kind of sense to me, when you can have your own property. If I were you, I'd say, okay, well, I don't want to live in that property because you know it's owned by your family, but you know, how about we look for a property for X amount of money and you pay for it? I think that makes more sense. You can buy it in Imade's name if you don't want it to be in my name, you know, but at least it would be a property that's been paid for, as opposed to him paying this ridiculous amount, or even you paying this ridiculous amount every year. Because if he's only paying 5 million of it, I don't know how much he's paying, but I think that 25 million is a lot to just be paying for somebody's property, as in to be renting. Whoa, it's a lot. It's a lot of money. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make financial sense to me. But anyway, that aside, the main thing, however, is, you know, Imade is a little girl, but she's not dumb, and that girl is coming of age. When I say coming of age, I don't mean she's, you know, becoming a bigger, but at least I understand she's 9, right? And 9-year-olds are intelligent enough to know what's going on. Those kids are very tech savvy. They go on Google, they go on the internet, and there's no telling what this girl has seen concerning this issue, as well as the fact that her friends' parents might be talking about this at home, and then her friends bringing it to school, and you know, they're talking about it. And I just wonder how this makes this girl feel. She's a child, right? I don't feel like the internet is the place to air your dirty laundry, especially where a child is concerned. I feel like if you really want to protect her, the two of you would discuss amicably. I don't think the internet is the place to talk about the custody of a child. And I just also wonder, is it because Davido is a celebrity? If he wasn't, would you be releasing receipts on social media like this? You know, I just doubt it. This girl will grow up and she will see all these things. Even the conversation between yourself and Dr. Adeleke, your Imade's grandfather, I saw it on social media. It was released because it's out there for all to see, and I just think that is a bit bad, because the internet does not forget. The internet does not forget. And also, I feel like Imade will look back one day and she will see that her father asked for 50% custody, as in joint custody, and you said no. Now, some of the points you gave were valid, in that you were saying that, you know, David is always away, the house is always full of people, blah blah blah. Well, David is an artist. Even when you got pregnant for him, you know what he was doing, but you still chose to get pregnant for him. So why are you complaining that he's always away? He's now married, he's got a wife, and you cannot say that, you know, your child is not safe with her father. If you give him conditions and say, okay, Imade is coming, and during this time, or maybe you can agree to a particular nanny to be with her all the time when she's with David. How about that? I think that's, friends, what do you think? Leave your comments in the comment box below. You can say, oh, whilst Imade is with her dad, because it's always so busy in the house, and I need somebody to keep an eye on her, she can go with this nanny, and this nanny will be with her throughout her duration with the father. And I'm sure Davido is reasonable. He would oblige, or maybe he will have another nanny. I don't know. You people can talk about it and figure out a way that would be conducive to both of you, but especially to Imade. This girl has been caught in this cobweb of arguments, dirty fighting between her parents on social media. And you're a mother, and I know you want to protect your daughter, and you've done a great job and everything raising her this far. But I believe that girl would love her father in her life, and I've seen pictures of her with her dad, and I believe that they have a good relationship. You do know that David travels a lot. You knew this when you got pregnant for him, and you were old enough to know. You were older than him. He was the younger one, so but that's not the point here. But you got pregnant for this guy, had a child for him when he was 20 and you were 26, or along those lines. So you knew better. You knew what his career entailed, but you still chose to go ahead and get pregnant. So why now? Because he now has a child. He has several kids, by the way. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but Imade is not his only child. So now, because he has a child now, and he wants joint custody, so because of that, now he shouldn't go and do his business. He shouldn't go and perform, which is how he makes his money. Yes, forget the fact that he was born into a rich family, but the fact remains that that's his job. He's a superstar. He goes out, he sings. I mean, I think the day after his wedding, he was already in the States, performing. That's Davido's lifestyle. But you knew this. You knew this, and yet you chose to have a child with him. So you have to be reasonable. You have to be reasonable with your demands. And I don't think it is fair for you to keep especially a girl child away from her father. That girl will have daddy issues. And when I read Davido's statement that was published on social media, saying that, oh, you can have her now because of the low blow you dealt him, talking about the late fine, which I personally think was a very low blow, though I can understand, how your legal practitioners want to dig out things and use every evidence they can find, to help you win this case. However, where there's a child concerned and the child has passed on, I think it is very low to use that as an evidence in court and stating it as a reason as to why you don't feel comfortable leaving your child with her father. I know of other kids that have unfortunately passed on under the care of their parents. It was an accident. I don't pray for anybody, but using it as an excuse, as an evidence, as a reason, whatever you want to call it, is a very, very low blow. For me personally, I pray and I hope that David reconsiders. I really wouldn't want him to, as they say, hands off his daughter because of your demands. I really hope that, it doesn't come to that. But I feel like the two of you need to be a bit more flexible. Sophie, you need to be a bit more flexible with your demands. And David, you need to be a bit more accommodating. Let's think of Imade. Let's put her first. Because like I said, the internet never forgets. And it will be there in black and white that her father reached out for joint custody. He wanted to be a part of her life. But you said no. Why wouldn't you let her be part of his life? I don't get that. And I think it's wrong when parents use the child as a tool to punish the other party. I think it's totally wrong. And if we're women of integrity, we do not do such. I hope that you and David will come together and reassess the situation and come to an agreement for the benefit of this child, so that this child will not suffer unnecessarily because the two of you cannot come to an agreement. It's very, very important. So I just wanted to, what do you guys think? I mean, do you agree that, because I really want David to still be involved in Imade's life, but I feel like he's just had enough. And of course, the statement that Sophie made was a low blow. It really hurt him, and he's not having it. But I feel like because of Imade, that they should reconsider. For her sake. Sophie should bring down her demands, and David should give her a listening ear. Let's work out a way. I keep saying let's as if I'm part of the family. But the two of you should work out a way how this girl can have access to both her parents so that she's not deprived of either of her parents. What you don't want, Sophie, is after all your hard work, after all the efforts you put in to raise this child, what you don't want is her resenting you later on, you know, and blaming you for her not having a good relationship with her father, or even leaving you and going to her father. And I'm talking from experience here because I know somebody in a similar situation and I advised them, and today they have a good relationship with the daughter. She's now 20, 21, but they also got to the point where they had said, you know what, when she's older, she'll get to know me. I'm not dealing with all this nonsense that the mother is asking for. I'm not dealing with this. You cannot continue to use my child as a tool. And I spoke to the person and I said, look, you just have to calm down and just work with the mother and be patient. As at the time, the girl was 10. And, you know, now she's 20. I think she's 20 now. She has a good relationship with her father. They have this joint custody and it's worked out. Imagine if when the girl was 10, she lost access to her father, she was just with her mother, and then the father comes back or she goes looking for her father at age 18. Yes, the father will be there for her, but that bond would not be as tight as it could have been or as it is now because they haven't had that kind of relationship. Please reconsider for Imade's sake. Please reconsider for Imade's sake. I mean, guys, what do you think? I think in everything, we need to put that child first. I feel like Sophie needs to pipe down a little bit with her demands. You don't need a 20+ million property that you, not even property or rent, that you're paying rent on per annum. I'm sorry, I cannot wrap my head around that. For me, that's a downward investment. Ask Davido to buy you a property if it comes to that. And be reasonable about it. But to be demanding that he pays 20 million plus for rent per annum is a bit ridiculous to me. In fact, it's quite ridiculous to me. If you don't want to live in the house that they offered you, you can say, okay, buy a property in Imade's name and then I will live in that. But for you to demand that he continues to pay this ridiculous amount of rent, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think, you know, the place where you are should be conducive for Imade, and he should continue to pay her school fees and, you know, continue to do, you know, if there's been a slack, you know, and even if there has been, I think it might be to do with the fact that you guys have had some issues and you've had a breakdown in communication. You know, reconnect that communication line and don't try and get back with him. And even if he comes back to you, you know, don't just communicate with him for the sake of your child, you know, because I think another thing is, you know, when him and Chioma, you know, had that breakup and you step back in, I think it comes across as though you were hoping that, you know, that relationship would now, that you guys will reconnect and you progress the relationship. But then he went back to Chioma, and I feel like there's still, because I'm a woman too, I can understand. I feel that there's still some, you know, animosity there, that, you know, there's some anger there. Let's get past all this for Imade's sake. Let's try and work something out, both mother and father, for the sake of this child. I would hate for this child not to have access to either of her parents, as in just access to the mother and not the father, or just access to the father and not the mother. No, it's healthier for her to have access to both parents on a regular basis. So reconsider, Sophie. Anyway, I'm going to end it here because I didn't want this video to be too long. You know, guys, what do you think? Am I being reasonable? Am I being unreasonable? You know, is Sophie within her rights to demand this because she has a child for David after all? Or do you think that the demands are a bit ridiculous? Do you feel that David is not pulling his weight as a dad, that he could do better? What do you guys think? Let's have your comments in the comment box. Let's have a discussion about this. All right, my lovelies, I'm going to wrap it up here. Until next time, stay absolutely fabulous, stay beautiful. Remember that Jesus loves you, and I, your girl, your sister, your auntie, your big sister, your younger sister, your friend, your ace, your girl, I love you too. Stay fabulous, stay blessed, and see you next time. Love you loads. Bye bye.